establish any kind of a connection with him. He spoke softly, like you'd speak to a child, and he used his name carefully, as if anticipating that it might provoke some kind of violent reaction. But it didn't. Of course. The tall blonde man blinked and then nodded. Yes, of course, I remember. He talked quietly and haltingly with a strong German accent. It's just that, his eyes anxiously scanned the surrounding area, the road, the horse, the tarmac, the vehicles in the car park. It's just that I suddenly have the strangest... He winced, shook his head, then gazed down briefly at his own two hands, as if he didn't quite recognize them. Foolen? He glanced up quizzically. Feeling? Bede translated. The German stared at him blankly. Feeling? Bede repeated. The German frowned. No, not... It's this... He patted his own chest meaningfully. Falling, yes, this feeling, this horrible, almost... He shuddered, almost overwhelming feeling, like a kind of... He swallowed. A dread. A deep dread. Bede nodded. A terrible dread. He moved his hands to his throat. Suffocating, a smothering feeling, a terrible feeling. You're tired, Bede murmured gently, and possibly a little confused, but it'll soon pass, trust me. I do, the German nodded. I do trust you. He paused. Trust you. He blinked. Trust, Bede repeated.
You're listening to Book Club on BBC Radio 4 and BBC Sound. We're talking to the writer Nicola Barker, discussing her book, a shortlisted 2007 novel, Darkmans. Let's have our next question.
The book talks about the ability of Skogan the Jester to speak hard truths, to say things that other people can't say because they're wrapped up in humour in a way that allows him to sort of push difficult messages. I wonder how much you did that yourself in the book, because there's some really challenging, deep, dark parts to the book, but they're always kind of offset with humour. And were you conscious of such? And
there was nothing I could do to get rid of it. It wasn't one that caused any trouble because it was in the kind of curve of the foot. But I spent decades with it, really thinking about it. And my granddad had the same America. Yeah. So this is actually... I had even forgotten that this was an issue in the book, I must be honest with you. So it's really entertaining to me that is the case. But yes, that is how the Veruca appeared in the book. I felt as if the Veruca represented something symbolic.
But you don't know what?
Remember this, I wrote this 20 years ago, so so much of it is...
a bit of time.
So much of it is really mysterious to me now. But also... so much time was spent writing the book. It took me 5 years. And the last 3 years, I literally did nothing else. And I couldn't take in any kind of stimulation. So the only thing I did was I watched A Place in the Sun in the afternoon. And that was like the peak levels of stimulation I could accept at that time, because my head was so full of this book. I lost years writing this thing. And I remember once my then partner coming into the living room, or I was at my desk and saying a friend of ours had invited us over to dinner, and I was just exasperated. And I said, why has she invited us to dinner again? It was literally a couple of weeks ago. It was like a few weeks ago. And he said, that was 2 years ago. It was, I mean, not even joking. It was, on the train on the way up, I just looked at it and I thought, was this worth it? Like, was this worth it?
What was your conclusion?
No, it was, sincerely, it was not worth the effort I put into it. I just lost years of my life to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really glad that you did write it. I think it was the humour that kept me going. I mean, once I had finished it, trying to talk about it to anybody, I found really hard, including who were the main characters, because it seemed, chapter by chapter, different people were having their turn.
Well, if somebody said, a friend of yours said to you, what it's about, what would you say? Well, it ends in a fire, and, you know, there are all these things.
You know, there were points where I actually, my question that I sort of thought about to ask you was about Fleet, because I thought, you know, he's a very sort of old-fashioned little boy, very unusual, but actually, you know, there are children like that. I didn't know if that was, you know, partly that you had, you know, experienced that kind of child, you know, that you'd seen, and you sort of thought, how could I explain this?
Yes, I think he's, as all children are, he just accepts himself as he is and makes no apology for that. And children possess these kind of universes within, I always think. And as we get older, like, their connection to the unconscious is so much more powerful, and their groundedness and their sense of play, all of these things sort of get crushed out of us as we grow older and as we adapt and as we try to fit in. So I love to celebrate that kind of wildness and freedom.
What I wanted to say was, I did find it quite complex, and I almost just let it wash over me. I just kept reading. You asked what kept you reading till the end of the book, and for me it was, I wanted to know the answers. And when I got to the end of the book, I didn't have the answers, but I can, you know,
maybe that was deliberate.
Is that what you intended?
Yeah.
And
so,
did you want us to make our own?
I love that question, because one of the most important moments for me as a reader when I was in my late teens was Henry James's Portrait of a Lady. And there's something so inhospitable about his sentences. I found it so hard to read, and I hated it, and I wasn't comprehending most of it because I was just finding it so hard to make sense of each sentence. But I persisted with it. And then I remember about 2/3 of the way through, I was just sitting in my room and burst into tears, and I had no idea why, what had happened. And from that moment onwards, I had a sense that the meaning isn't conveyed in the words or in the plot alone. There's a kind of a level of transcendence, or a kind of subconscious text that's not spoken, that kind of accumulates above the text. So with this book, that's kind of what I was trying to do. So everything is happening, and the meaning and the sentences, everything's working together, but I also feel as if there's something unspeakable operating within the text as well. And so that's the thing that I'm trying to throw words at.
Yeah, we got one here.
Two things, really. You mentioned that the novel doesn't feel the right place, or is not as attractive as a proposition to you now as a method of output. So what does that look like for you now? Where do you see your output being better placed, if not in a novel? And secondly, you said you've read the book coming up on the train, and you've reflected on it, and it's risen up feelings in you again. So how do you take that forward, and what has this process meant for you, reviewing the book 20 years later?
Well, I think it confirmed something I'd already felt, which was that, but it was lovely to see how meaningful it was to me then, and it's really touching to see your past self believing in something, and I kind of felt a tenderness towards her and how driven she was, and at the same time, what a lunatic! Why did she do that? And then, but because I would say the last 10 years or so, I've really struggled. I feel as if I, at some level, lost my life in fiction. I lived in fiction. I lived in narrative, and there are lots of particular reasons for that, but I had a kind of crash, but it was connected to my disillusionment with the novel, but also this sense that I had lived in fiction, and I actually just had to hatch into the world and actually start living as a human being.
Thank you very much, Nicola Barker, a human being, I can confirm, for being our guest on Book Club this month and talking about this extraordinary novel, Darkmond. It's been such a pleasure for our readers here. On Radio 4, same time next week, there'll be an episode, of course, of Take 4 Books. where an author talks about a new novel and the 3 other literary works that helped to shape it. This next episode of that programme will feature the wonderful writer Amitav Ghosh on his new novel, Ghost Eye. Our next book club will be with the writer Kirsten Innes for her novel Scabby Queen, and as always, all the details of how to join us for that will be on the website. Do keep reading along with us. Until next month and the next book.
Book Club was produced by Dominic Howell. The editor is Gillian Whelan, and it was a BBC Audio Scotland production. And now it's time for the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 0015 on Sunday the 10th of May. There are warnings of gales in Fitzroy, Seoul, Fastnet and Shannon. The general synopsis at 1800, low north Trafalgar 1000 expected, south Fitzroy 1005 by 1800 Sunday. New low expected Fair Isle 1005 by same time. The area forecast for the next 24 hours. Viking, northwest 3 to 5, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7 later, perhaps gale 8 later. Showers, rain later, good, occasionally poor. North Utsira, south Utsira. Northwesterly 3 to 5, becoming variable 3 later. Showers, good. 40s, Cromarty. Northwest 3 to 5, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7 later. Perhaps gale 8 later. Showers, rain later. Good, occasionally poor later. 4th, Tyne, Dogger. Northeast backing northwest 3 to 5, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7 later. Showers, rain later. Good, occasionally moderate. Fisher, northwest backing southwest later 4 to 6. Showers, good, occasionally moderate. German Bight, Humber. North or northeast 4 to 6, backing west or northwest 3 to 5 later. Showers, good. Thames, Dover, White, Portland, Plymouth. Northeast 4 to 6, increasing 7 at times, perhaps gale 8 later. Showers, thundery at first, except in Thames. Good, occasionally poor. Biscay, cyclonic 4 to 6, occasionally 7 later in north, perhaps gale 8 later in north. Thundery showers, good, occasionally poor. Trafalgar, cyclonic, mainly southwest 4 to 6, occasionally 7 at first, thundery showers, good, occasionally poor. Southeast Fitzroy, cyclonic 4 to 6, thundery showers, good, occasionally poor. Northwest Fitzroy, Seoul, northeasterly 6 to gale 8, showers, moderate or good. Lundy, Fastnet, northeast 5 to 7, occasionally gale 8 at first in Fastnet, showers, good. Irish Sea, northeast 4 to 6, backing northwest 3 to 5 later, fair, good. Shannon, northeast 6 to gale 8, backing north 5 later, showers, good. Rockhall, Malin, Hebrides, Bailey, north or northwest 4 to 6, becoming variable 2 to 4 later in Bailey, rain or showers, moderate or good. Fair Isle, northwest 3 to 5, becoming cyclonic 4 to 6, occasionally 7 later, perhaps gale 8 later, rain or wintry showers, good, occasionally poor. Faroes, northwest 3 to 5, becoming cyclonic, then north later 4 to 6, rain or wintry showers, good, occasionally poor. And southeast Iceland, cyclonic 4 to 6, rain or wintry showers, good, occasionally poor. And now for the weather reports from coastal stations for 2300. Tyree, automatic, north 4, 16 miles, 1027, rising slowly. Stornoway, southwest by west 2, 30 miles, 1026, now falling. Lerwick, west northwest 3, 24 miles, 1022, steady. Wick, automatic, northwest by west 2, 19 miles, 1025, rising slowly. Aberdeen, northwest 1, 24 miles, 1025, now falling. Lookers, north-northwest 2, 16 miles, 1026, rising slowly. Bulmer, northwest 2, 13 miles, 1025, rising more slowly. Bridlington, north-northeast 4, 1022, rising slowly. Sandetti light vessel automatic, northeast by north 5, 5 miles, 1017. Greenwich light vessel automatic, northeast 4, 2 miles, 1016. St Catherine's Point automatic, east-northeast 4, 1015, rising slowly. Jersey, east 4, slight rain, 3 miles, 1013, now falling. Channel light vessel automatic, northeast 4, 1014. Scilly automatic, northeast by north 5, 5 miles, 1016, now falling. Milford Haven, north-northeast 4, 13 miles, 1018, rising slowly. Aberporth, north by east 4, 7 miles, 1019, rising slowly. Valley, northeast 4, 19 miles, 1022, rising slowly. Liverpool Crosby, northeast by east 4, 27 miles, 1022, rising more slowly. Valencia, north-northeast 4, 22 miles, 1023, rising. Ronald's Way, northeast by north 2, 30 miles, 1023, rising slowly. And Malin Head, north 5, 14 miles, 1027, rising slowly. And now here's the weather forecast for the inshore waters of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, valid for the following 24 hours, issued by the Met Office at 2300 on Saturday the 9th of May. The general situation: High pressure centred out in the Atlantic extends a ridge eastwards across the British Isles. This will give a strong northeasterly flow in the south. The ridge will gradually decline southwards and allow a frontal trough to move into the north later on Sunday and then progress further south on Monday. This will introduce strong winds to some northern and eastern Scottish waters on Sunday and then other North Sea coasts through Monday. Cape Wrath to Rattery Head including Orkney. Northwesterly 3 to 5, backing southwesterly 4 to 6. Occasionally 7 in north, then veering northerly 5 to 7 later. Perhaps gale 8 later in east. Showers, rain for a time, good, occasionally poor. Rattery Head to Berwick upon Tweed. Variable 2 to 4, becoming south 4 to 6 later, then veering north or northwest 5 to 7 later. Perhaps gale 8 later near Rattery Head. Showers, rain for a time later. Good, occasionally poor later. Berwick upon Tweed to Whitby. North 3 or 4, becoming variable 3 or less, then west or northwest 4 to 6 later. Showers, rain later. Good, occasionally moderate later. Whitby to Gibraltar Point, northeast 4 or 5, becoming variable 2 to 4 later, then southwest 4 or 5 later. Showers at first, good, occasionally moderate at first. Gibraltar Point to North Foreland, northeasterly 4 to 6, becoming variable 2 to 4 later in north, mainly fair, good. North Foreland to Selsey Bill, northeasterly 5 or 6, occasionally 4 at first, then increasing 7 at times, perhaps gale 8 later in east, occasional rain, good, occasionally moderate. Selsey Bill to Lyme Regis, east 3 to 5, backing northeast 4 to 6, occasional rain, good, occasionally moderate. Lyme Regis to Land's End, including the Isles of Scilly, northeast 4 to 6, showers at first, good. Land's End to St David's Head, including the Bristol Channel, north or northeast 4 to 6, showers at first, good. St David's Head to Great Orme Head, including St George's Channel, northeast 4 to 6, backing north or northwest 3 to 5 later, showers at first, good. Great Orme Head to the Mull of Galloway, northeast 3 to 5, becoming variable 2 to 4, then northwest 4 or 5 later, mainly fair, good. Isle of Man, northeast 4 or 5, decreasing 3 or 4, backing northwest 4 or 5 later, fair, good. Loch Foyle to Carlingford Loch, northerly or northeasterly, backing northwesterly in north and later in south 3 to 5, showers later, good, occasionally moderate later. Mull of Galloway to Mull of Kintyre, including the Firth of Clyde and North Channel, northerly or northeasterly 3 to 5, becoming variable 2 to 4, then northwesterly 4 or 5 later, showers later, good, occasionally moderate later. Mull of Kintyre to Ardmurchan Point, northerly backing westerly or northwesterly 3 to 5, veering northerly later in north, mainly fair, then showers, good, occasionally moderate. Ardmurchan Point to Cape Wrath, variable 2 to 4, becoming west 4 to 6, veering north or northeast 4 or 5 later, showers, rain for a time, moderate or good, occasionally poor in far north. And the Shetland Isles, northwest 3 to 5, becoming variable 2 to 4, then north or northeast 5 to 7 later, showers, rain for a time, good, occasionally poor. And that completes the shipping bulletin, and this is where we say goodnight. The World Service will be with you until 5:30 in the morning. So from all of us at Radio 4, we want to thank you for listening with us and have a very quiet night. Good night.
BBC World Service. It's midnight GMT. This is Oliver Conway with the newsroom. Hungary's new Prime Minister is sworn in.